welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Tomorrow. My name is Caleb. Today we're going to be going over some of the most fantasy relevant injuries and kind of updating you on what those injuries are and how serious they are so that you can be as prepared as possible going into your drafts as the 2021 season approaches. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it and figure out what some of these injuries mean. All right, let's start with quarterbacks. Now with quarterbacks, there's three injuries to really be aware of. First with Dak Prescott, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he has had a scare with a shoulder injury in camp, but reports say that he should be good to open the season, so we shouldn't worry too much about Prescott. Let's move on to Joe Burrow, quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's coming back from that ACL tear that he had last season, but all reports point to him being fine to start the season. And then Carson Wentz, he's dealing with a foot injury that he suffered in camp, and after a little bit of concern early on about this being something that holds him out for weeks into the season, it's reported that he is tracking to actually start week 1. And even if he were to miss a week or two in the regular season, he should return pretty early in the season. So no need to worry too much about Wentz or about that offense in Indianapolis. Now let's move into our running backs. Now there's a lot more here to kind of talk about, so let's go quickly through it. First off, Cam Akers, running back for the Rams. He's out for the season with a torn Achilles, which is, of course, very terrible. We were really looking forward to watching him play this year. But this is going to mean that Darrell, Henderson, and Sony Michel are going to probably split carries in that backfield all year. Moving on to a very recent one, J.K. Dobbins. He's out for the season with a torn ACL. He plays for the Ravens, which means the Ravens are likely going to lean on Gus Edwards in that ground game of theirs. And then another one that's out for the year, Travis Etienne, rookie for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's going to be out for the season with a Lisfranc ankle injury, which means that James Robinson should see the lion's share of the carries for the Jaguars. Now moving on to some more minor injuries for running backs. Saquon Barkley for the Giants is returning from last season's ACL injury. And Barkley is really starting to get better, and he's been participating in practices and is eyeing to play in week 1, which is really good news. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Kansas City Chiefs had a minor ankle sprain that he dealt with in camp, but he's returned to practice and he should be okay. Now, DeAndre Swift of the Detroit Lions is a little different. He's dealing with a groin injury, and it's bad enough and serious enough that head coach Dan Campbell is concerned about it, and he even recently stated that Swift could miss week 1, so we definitely want to keep that in mind as we go into our drafts. And then finally, Darrell Henderson of the Rams. I know I mentioned him earlier talking about Cam Akers, but he's had a minor thumb injury that shouldn't cause him to miss too much time, but it was concerning enough for the Rams to trade for Sony and Michel to take some of Henderson's work away. So definitely something to monitor this year. Now let's move on to our wide receivers. Now there's a few big name wide receivers that we'll want to keep an eye on, starting with Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. He has an ankle injury that's going to cause him to miss the start of the season. We don't really know exactly when he's going to come back, but it will probably be somewhere around halfway through the year. And that means that Marquez Callaway is going to likely be the number 1 wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. Leading up to then, he's been a popular sleeper to grab at the tail end of drafts, so definitely keep that in mind. Stefon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills has a minor knee injury, but it's expected that he's going to be okay. It shouldn't cost him any time in season. Now, Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings is dealing with a sprained AC joint in his shoulder. Coach Mike Zimmer said that Jefferson is doing good, though, and he's expected to be okay for week 1. A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans has a minor knee injury, but he has been practicing, and he should be fine for week 1. Now, Kenny Golladay is a little different. He's a wide receiver for the Giants, of course, and he suffered a hamstring injury in camp. And he's likely going to be questionable right up until the start of week 1, so this will definitely be one to keep an eye on. And in fact, I likely would not be surprised if he does miss a little bit of time. And then finally, DJ Chark of the Jacksonville Jaguars has a minor finger injury that required surgery, but it's expected that he'll be good to go for week 1. Now, finally, moving on to our tight ends. Now, there's a few injuries here to keep an eye on. First, with Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. He's dealing with a shoulder injury that's kept him out of the entire preseason, but he's shooting for playing in week 1, as is his teammate Jonnu Smith of the New England Patriots, who's had an ankle injury, but he's practicing and he should be fine for the opener. Now moving on to the Giants, Evan Engram has suffered a calf injury in the last preseason game, which could end up costing him a little bit of time to start the season. We're still trying to figure out what exactly is going on. That one was very recent. And then Irv Smith Jr. for the Minnesota Vikings has a meniscus injury that's going to require some surgery. and it's going to cost him at least the first few weeks of the season, and it could actually cost him a few months. So that's a big one that has a big question mark on it. And then finally, Adam Truatman. He's been a bit of a sleeper. He's a tight end for the New Orleans Saints that many experts expect for him to take a leap forward this year, but he suffered an ankle injury in a preseason game, and that could cost him at least maybe the first week of the season, so definitely keep an eye on him. All right, guys, so here is a list of all of these injuries. And to help you during your draft, you can actually download and print out this list by clicking the link in the description. So I would definitely suggest that you do that. And hopefully all these guys will get healthy and get back to making plays on the field where we want to see them. These injuries are never fun, but unfortunately they are part of the game and definitely something we have to account for in fantasy. But guys, please subscribe for more league-winning fantasy advice, and also drop us a like and a comment, interact with us, and ask us questions. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also, you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and stay in touch with us over there, engage with us over there. We'll answer your questions. And check out our other channel, Pretty Smart Sports, where we're talking about all sorts of sports stuff. So definitely if you go and check that out. But guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.